So many years have passed. I made it. I built my own life. I am successful. I never had to see those people, my so-called family, again. And yet, despite all the therapy, the counseling, despite holding my children's precious bodies as closely as I can and vowing they will never go through what I went through, I still see them, lying in that basement. The blood, the sounds, the chatter. Izzy and Stacy, my stepsisters. That day when it all finally happened, well, yes, here's a cliche. It started like any other day. Work, 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 sweeping, cooking, wiping, cleaning the dishes, the kitchen, the bedrooms. Their mother left around noon, and they became louder and more rambunctious than ever. I tried to ignore their hollering and foolishness, concentrating on my chores, and of course chatting with the mice to block them out. I don't know when exactly I started talking to the mice, but it must have been after I read this old English novel lying around in the attic where I had been moved to after they moved in. One of my mother's old childhood books. The Little Princess. It wasn't about a princess at all. It was about this rich English girl whose dad dies while she's at boarding school in London, and there's no money left, and the headmistress makes her a servant in the school. The girl makes friends with the mice. It seemed like the logical thing to do. And so I made friends with the mice too, leaving them scraps of food and talking to them while I swept and chopped and cooked and cleaned. I was so young. We all were so young. Then, on that day, with my stepmom out of the house, one of them, my favorite, whom I called Jeremy, skittered up to me. He was holding something shiny. I gasped. Thank you, Jeremy, I cried. They had found me a pair of my mother's earrings. I could remember her wearing them, all sparkly and dangly. I put them on, my heart full. Jeremy told me I look very pretty. I gave him some cheese. Ash, Ash! Izzy's shriek ripped through our conversation. I sighed, leaning against the kitchen table where Jeremy was nibbling. Ash! Stacy joined the screaming. Don't they have legs? Asked Jeremy irately. I'd better go check before they scream the house down. I touched the dangling earrings. Thank you for finding these, Jeremy, and thanks for the others too. Here, extra food. I put some more cheese before the gray mouse. Jeremy chittered, and his friends and family drew forward from under the cabinets to join the feast. I walked down the long hallway to the living room where Izzy and Stacy were. That house was so big. Although I hated their nickname for me, Ash, the color of your skin, I was glad they didn't use my real name that my own mom had given me. Izzy and Stacy were lounging on the couch. With their mom gone overnight, they were even more obnoxious. Where were you? Cried Izzy. Stacy looked straight at me. She was tarting herself up. Special plans for tonight? Where did you get these? She came up close, right in my face, and flicked the earrings. I flinched. They're my mom's. Leave me be, Stacy. I have to help Izzy. Stacy tightened her grip on the right earring. These are mine! Izzy, look, aren't these my earrings you've been stealing from me? Izzy got off the couch and joined her sister, taking hold of the left earring. I stood very still. Both sisters tugged forcefully on the earrings, ripping them out of my lobes. Pain shot through me, but I held myself still, refusing to cry out or move. Blood spurted upwards. Stacy snickered. This will teach you to go around stealing my stuff. I turned and walked silently out of the room, blood dripping down my neck and onto my shoulders. As soon as I was out of the living room, I rushed up to the attic and flung myself on my bed, sobbing and bleeding. Eventually, worn out from pain and grief, I fell asleep. It must have been several hours later that I woke up. The light had changed. It was quite dark, and then I heard muffled screaming. Izzy and Stacy. I climbed down from the attic. The muffled screams were coming from the basement. I opened the basement door, flicked on the lights, and slowly went down the stairs. I still don't know how the mice had managed to carry them down and tie them up. I don't know how they got into the basement. I've been asked again and again, a million times. I don't know, I repeated, over and over again. I was asleep when it happened. They couldn't find any of their blood on me or any of my belongings, and eventually they had to believe me. Or pretend to. The two girls were laid down and tied firmly to my mom's old sewing table with her old embroidery thread and yarns, and gagged. The gags had partially slipped off, though, from all their screaming. Their legs were stretched out before, and the mice had chewed off their toes, right up to their heels. 4 bloody, toeless stumps. The basement light shone brightly on the glossy, congealing blood. Stacy and Izzy lifted their heads and looked at me, their eyes dull with terror and pain. Jeremy broke away from the gory crowd and ran up to me. I was probably hallucinating, but he sat back on his hind legs and grinned at me, his fur splattered with blood. "They can't hurt you anymore, and I got your earrings back. Does that get me more cheese, please?" I heard him say. I stared in silence. And then I nodded, turned, and quietly left the basement. Hello everyone, I'm Giggles, and thank you so much for listening to my narration. A quick shout out to all my patrons: Melissa Perez, Geek Sanctuary, Lawrence Wallen, Andrea Sanderson London, Eric Cifuentes, Krzysztof Kozak-Slazak, Jesse Hartley, and Icy Narrates. If you want to become a patron today, you can check out the link in my description below. And as always, thank you so much for your support. I'll see you in the next video.